Welcome to One Word a Day. I'm Sophie. Let's continue to explore classical China era's core concepts through these individual characters. And we see 智, today's special word. In English, I would like to translate to today's very trendy word, talking about the purpose. Okay, many TED Talks or any other kind of inspirational or life coaching materials online talk about a purpose. We exist. We have to exist with a purpose. So Chinese 智 is, I guess, the closest of what we in English count toward what is a purpose, but how Chinese express it. We see simplified traditional, exactly the same, versus 2,000 years ago script. This looks a little bit bendy on the top. Okay, so it will be completely different interpretation if that stylized band, instead of a horizontal line, like two horizontal lines with one vertical line, that's from 1 to 10. That's a Chinese way of framing what it is to be a grown man. You have to complete from 1 to 10, like almost like you have to fulfill, to check all the boxes to be qualified as an adult or a useful individual from the perspective of the ruler. Okay, 是 it's somebody whose existence, not just for that individual, has to be for the community, for the family, and more so for the country, for the ruler. Like in wartime, you can go to war. In peacetime, you can be useful to be part of the government apparatus. So this 是, if that's the goal setting, like that's the, I guess, the script written or the great expectations of the ancient times of what young man should grow up into to become a 士, at least, right? A part of the ruling class. Then that's the goal, the target. We have at the bottom, that's the heart, that you fulfilled your heart, your own, I guess, the motivation is to become somebody who fulfill from 1 to 10, check all the boxes from the ruler's point of view. That's one way of reading, simply because in contemporary Chinese, both versions, the top is about that 士, that almost like a civilized or cultivated, useful man. But if you see this dictionary, if it's bended here, it's intentional that this is actually a plant symbol in Chinese. And we'll have the plant symbol sitting on top of the ground, supposedly. That image create one possible meaning, which means here. Chinese express almost like a here and now. What we're talking about, like this in English, would be 知. We're talking about a plant, using the plant still rooted in the ground, something still living in there. Mark that location, and we use that plant to mean here, to mean this, to kind of be the language kind of abstract referral thing. So in contemporary language or sign language, will point, right? Point this, here, that, here, there, right? English, but in Chinese we say 知. It's this plant. And this plant paired with the heart would be, you almost like you find your calling of here, like your own calling, your heart here. That's also explainable, right? Because everybody have a different purpose. We come to the world supposedly to fulfill different calling. I'm not sure about 1 word a day is my calling, but I've been devoting several years of my life and still so far enjoy unpacking the ancient language that sort of related to me because I was brought up in this language, but I'm only brought up on the surface level, the simplified version. And I'm kind of tracking down and unpack to see how ancient times people make sense and how it's related to our world 2025 so far. And so that's purpose, like the calling of your heart here, or from the perspective of ruling class, become a useful person, that 1 to 10 box checked person, and that's your goal setting. I would argue from the ruler's point of view, like everybody becomes this tool. In contemporary Chinese, we have this 工具人, this man as a tool, as a utility, is therefore dispensable. Once you're used, you're done. You can be discarded. You don't really have your own value as of yourself, but you exist and be useful only to the society to become as if you're a tool or a fuel or a resource, something like that. That's alienation of humanity. That's diminish humans' value, totally being, is it useful or not? And actually, I have this deep conversation. I'm not sure how deep, but it's a long conversation with ChatGPT talking about Metamorphosis by Kafka and talking about alienation of humans. When our whole existence, the purpose of our existence is to serve others, to fulfill a purpose, either as a bread earner or some kind of servant, serves as a useful function to society. Then once that function was removed, like this man morphed into a bug, either in his mind or in actuality. I mean, it's fictional. Once that function was deprived, is he still a man, or is a bug? Is a nuisance? It's like useless, discardable, and even killable because it's no longer useful to the family. Sorry for news, noise, some nuisance right there. Then I would say that's the alienation of humans from the point of view as the ruler. You become 1 to 10, check all the boxes for the utility of the country or the ruler. You don't really have other reason to exist other than to fulfill that function. So I would say that if that's the purpose, this 智 is just like, I'm not surprised too. Like, this is Chinese language. A language was created and used by the ruler as part of the, the language frame how you think. And generations of intellectuals willingly and happily fulfill the role to become part of the ruling class. Their whole life was devoted to, get into this national exam, distinguish themselves, get enrolled into the government bureaucracy, become, part of the hierarchy over there. And that could be their purpose. I guess nothing wrong with that, but there's a kind of if that's the mainstream, there's a substream or substrate of Chinese thinkers who kind of negate to that. And their purpose is not being useful for others. Their purpose is their heart pointing to here, to find your own calling. So that's purpose. In English, purpose in today's world, in all that inspirational speeches, finding a purpose becomes kind of a more of the second meaning, because we don't talk about ourselves as we're being useful, even if, Arnold Schwarzenegger came up with a book about being useful, like put yourself as a useful being, therefore you can fulfill a certain purpose for others. But I would assume, as far as like the most inspirational speeches I came across are mostly pointing to purpose, not fulfilling societal functions, but also fulfill your own calling. You're like what you really like to do, like your choice, your own defined script of living. So that's the kind of purpose. Or some are even more religious, like higher, or connect to even bigger consciousness or whatsoever. All that can be defined as purpose. And in Chinese, it's just 志, and it came from this ruler's point of view, but it can also be reinterpreted as our own heart here, our own calling. We own it, and nothing else. Nobody else tell me how I want to spend my life, right? Okay, so 意志, intent. We talked about music of heart. That's how Chinese define intent. Very poetic and accurate as well. And 志, they share the heart symbol, except the top, either utility or here. You decide. That's our purpose. Intent plus purpose is equivalent, 意志, when we pair them together, equivalent to English will. That's the willpower. When we talk about 意志力, willpower will add a power, muscle power character after it. That's Chinese translation of will. We combine the intent with the purpose. That's our will. Okay, 同志, 同 means same purpose. So people who share your same purpose. That's a Chinese translation of a comrade, which is a communism concept to pair two strangers, kind of strip down their, I guess, original family or even their race, their gender, everything pared down. Like none of those usual societal labels of how humans got classified, but they will distinguish, are you sharing the same purpose to achieve the communism utopia or not? Are you on my boat or not? So that's the Chinese communist concept of comrade. And that's Chinese translation of 同志, which I think is probably proper, right? Com, share, is equivalent to this calm, right? 同 is the same, and rad, I guess rad almost like evoke this radical, right? They still regard themselves as revolutionist, okay? And then that's 志, this heart, you want to determine to do something, right? That's purpose, okay? 志气, qi. Again, we're talking about this. This is an essential concept of Chinese like to observe people from the point of view of your qi, your breath. And your breath symbolizes your energy, your vibe, what kind of a frequency or vibration you are. So purpose, breath, 志气 together becomes your ambition. It's like your whole existence. Like where are you orienting toward? What's your ambition? What are you on track to? Like where are you going? Almost like tell me your destination. So that's ambition. That's 志气. All right, so I find this very cute picture here, talking about purpose. So it's almost like a societal, this huge, in relative to this baby, it's a toddler, that this huge architecture space, right? And symbolized by this climbing societal ladders and this toddler just facing the first step, figuring out how to get up there. And it almost kind of symbolizes ourselves, how we start as that individual, vulnerable, starting point, like starter of life. And then you kind of try to find your stairs instead of this given set of stairs, somebody else's world building already built up all the way to your first step. Like, do you choose to go there? Is that how you define your life? Is that how you set up your purpose? So this purpose is ancient. We can, almost map it to today's world. Like if it's rulers in the ancient times, 1 to 10 box check. It could be today's societal expectations. That's your, other people's architecture, other people's world building, other people's framework of how you should spend your life, where you should go. Like the stairs already lay out to you. Just step onto it. Go higher. Try not to tumble. Okay. Or another one is you find your own purpose, find your own world, create your own world, um, and just map out your own pathways, uniquely yours. Nobody else's given steer to yourself. You find your own pathway. So that's another way to go about purpose. Sure. Thank you for your time. See you another day.